Here it comes! Television most exciting hour of fantastic prizes. The president's choosing prize in rice. Thomas Shepard, come on down! Cynthia, Big Slaughter, come on down! Diane, Jack, come on down! And Priscilla, nice! Come on down! You are the first four contestant on Right. And now here's the song from this room.
Price is Right. This is a happy show where we always have lots of laughs, and then in walks Priscilla down here. What are you crying about, baby?
So happy.
What?
So happy.
You're happy? I'd hate to see you when you're miserable. I noticed that when I came to the door, I looked down the line here, and he's smiling, and then there you are, down there at the end. Now, do you always cry when you're happy? Yeah? What do you do when you're sad?
I cry too.
You cry too? You must do a lot of crying at your house, huh? Well, now listen, I'm going to give you something really you're going to sob about this first item up for bids and the Price is Right.
A new bar set.
But wait, we have a fifth contestant. Her name is Wanda Wogglebottom. Come on down. You're the next contestant on This Wine is Right.
I won! Did you see me? I won! Yes! I won!
Well, hello, Wanda. Hello. Gosh, are you excited, Wanda? She's excited. All right, so you're going to got our first contestants. We've got some cool prizes for you. Oh, okay, you got your cigarette? Okay, sorry. All right, here we go. Ready? So we have all kinds of fun things. We can eliminate bloating. We got no more joint pain, more energy, enhanced fertility. That's good for you. Okay, makes me fat. Okay, so go ahead and spin. Let's see what you win. All right, what did Wanda win? Wanda won more energy. Like she needs more energy. Oh my gosh. All right, so you won the prize, so go get more energy. Go. Thank you, Wanda. All right, guys. Make that stop. All right. So how was that for a beginning, yeah? Got the energy going? Get you guys waking up and fall asleep early in the morning. So there's Wanda. She's all done. All right, so we're going to talk about bellyache. So all the stuff, some of the things I mentioned over there, all has to do with gut. Now, what is the name of this program? What's the name of it? Anybody remember? Beyond the Bellyache. So my hope is you guys didn't show up for Bellyache Fix. All right, because remember, our goal is never, ever, ever to treat. Our goal is to restore. And the challenge we get is people go, my belly doesn't hurt, why should I come to the program? Well, it's simple because the belly is a lot more than just that. So, in fact, Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. And I completely agree. You're going to find out why once we get through the program, why the gut is so important. But I want you to understand our mission. Everyone is to be empowered to live a healthy life naturally if they choose. See, that's the struggle I have, right? If you choose. Or are you coming in because your back hurts, because your neck hurts, and then when you feel better, you go away. Then you come back, and you go away, and you come back. Whether it's treating a belly, whether it's treating a colon, whether it's treating your heart, liver, spleen, spine, neck, numbness, tingling, sciatica, that's not what we're for, all right? That's what everybody else does. What we're here to is to restore and rejuvenate the body back to its perfect state. We want pristine bodies. And then what are you going to do with that? Live the life of your dreams, right? Be able to be out in the world doing the things you choose. Now, you may not choose to jump awake or or wakeboard or surf or ski or go backpacking or crash an ATV like me, all right? But maybe yours is a different choice, which is fine. But I want you to have the choice. Do you understand? What I never want to hear from any of my people is, I didn't because I couldn't. Do you understand the distinction there? I want to make sure you are empowered with all the tools and resources necessary to make that happen for you. So that's what these programs are about. That's why we have you come to the office for the adjustments, the nutrition, the fitness, the shockwave, the stem cells. Everything we're doing is to rejuvenate your body and get it back to optimum health. That's the whole idea. Yeah, liver, gallbladder, pancreas. Then we've got the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large, and the exit chute called the anus. Okay, so we're going to make sure that all happens the way it's supposed to. So our amazing digestive, let's take a tour down the pipe, shall we? Take a tour down the pipe. Who wants to go down the pipe with me? Anybody? Front end to the back end. All right, so let's do that little tour. All right, so let's start off. We got the mouth, salivary glands, esophagus, liver, stomach, all the rest of that stuff going down through. So, and it's much more than the tube, and you're going to find out what we're talking about. Okay, function number one. Okay, how do we digest? Let's talk about that. Mouth and salivary glands is where it begins. All right, so step number one. Okay, we're going to start chewing. Now, where's my mouse? Here he goes. All right. All right, so that's all you guys right there. You should be chewing. Okay. Make sure you're chewing appropriately. You should chew your food an average of 32 times. How many people do that? Okay, nobody, right? So we don't get adequate digestion. So we're improperly putting food into our stomach right away. And then the result is a secretion of salivary glands called that digestive enzymes, primarily amylases. We hear the word ACE, okay, that's typically a digestive enzyme, okay? All right. So that's step one. We should be chewing our food down the tube, through the esophagus, into the stomach. All right? So now the food's sitting in your stomach. Now what's going to happen next? And this is important that you understand this because this ties to reflux and many of the things. The stomach calls the brain, right? Because the brain's the king of everything, right? Activates two kinds of cells, all right? It activates something called goblet cells, and the other ones are parietal cells, all right? So within the gut. The parietal cells secrete hydrochloric acid, and that's what we're demonstrating here. See the acid in the stomach? So I got a question. If I took hydrochloric acid on Mr. Taylor, okay, and I sprayed it on his arm, what would happen to his arm? It would burn, it would disappear. You ever seen those movies where the acid eats the arm and whatever in the different movies and things, right? So why don't we digest our stomach? It secretes acid, why aren't we digesting our stomach? Anybody? As a lining, what's the lining lined with? Goblet cells. These guys right here. That's what secretes the mucus that keeps you from digesting yourself. Isn't that interesting? Okay, it's just so cool. I think the body is amazing. So where the goblet cells perform a mucus, the food falls into the stomach and the digestion process begins. Now, once it begins, what it does is there's two sides to the stomach. On the top end, you've got the cardiac sphincter. The bottom end is the duodenal bulb, okay? So I want you to picture food going down the pie hole. You chewed it 32 times, started the digestion, dropped into the stomach. The body makes stomach acid with the mucus to protect it, and then the acid starts to jump up into your esophagus. What do we call that if we're a medical doctor? Gastroesophageal reflux disease. It's a disease. No, it's not. It's normal, all right? So it also goes into the duodenal bulb. Now, is there goblet cells in the tail end of the stomach or the front end of the bottom end of the esophagus? The answer is no. So what does the body do? It's amazing. So the stomach acid starts to jump up into this, what's called the cardiac sphincter. It has nothing to do with the heart. That's just called because it's close to the heart and the duodenal bulb. Picture a purse string. The hydrochloric acid plugs into those receptor sites on both ends, and the purse strings pull. What have we created? An isolated system, right? Got it? It's an isolated system. So what happens? Now, what's next? Shaky, 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 shaky. We start digesting the food, right? So now the food gets completely digested. This side opens up. The bottom end opens first, which makes sense, doesn't it? Then all the food will move into the duodenal bulb, and we'll get there in a second, and this one opens up. You follow me so far? Kind of cool, yeah? Let's continue. All right, so here's the idea. So we're going to continue down, and the next step is the liver, gallbladder, and the pancreas. All right? So what is hydrochloric what? Acid, and that's going to do what? Digest us. So how does the body neutralize the hydrochloric acid? The pancreatic enzymes are basic, so that neutralizes the acid. Isn't that amazing? So the pancreas secretes amylases. So by the way, just back up one step. The stomach acid digests proteins alone. So it takes proteins and converts them into these tiny little particles called amino acids. They have to be teeny tiny all the way. Now all that moves into the duodenal bulb. The pancreas secretes amylases. Okay? What does that do? It neutralizes the stomach acid, but it also creates an enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates into tiny little molecules called glucose. All right? Tiny things. Right? Then what happens is over here on this side, you got the liver. Now that guy makes two things. Okay? It makes lipases, the word ace, remember? Lipo means fat. What's it going to do? It's going to take fatty acids and fats and convert them into little tiny fatty acids. We have three little tiny things that can be absorbed. Got it? Now, what do bile salts do? Now, the bile is also manufactured in the liver. And what does it do? What are we mostly made out of? Water or fat? We're mostly water. What do we know about water and fat? What do we know about that? Water and fat don't mix. So how do we make it work? It uses bile salts to emulsify. Okay? If I get a grease stain right here, my wife's the queen of removing stains because I'm good at making stains. All right? And so what happens? We use detergent. What do you put in your wash machine? Fat or water? Water, and water and fats don't mix. I have a grease stain. How do I get it out? Detergent. It's an emulsifier. It gets in there and it makes water and fat mix together and it pulls out the stain. Kind of cool, yeah? But what's more important in the body is these bile salts emulsify the fat so when they get absorbed into the bloodstream, they aren't rejected by the body. And it's kind of important. Fats are kind of important. Our brain's made of fat. Our nerves are made of fat. Our immune system, lots of fat. Okay? Cool? So, we got, what's this guy? What's the gallbladder? What's that for? That's a storage of, see, I heard the word storage, very good. Storage of what? Bile salts. Now, why do we need extra bile salts? Just in case we happen to eat that full steak with all the fat. And the body goes, we don't have enough emulsifier. What are we going to do? Well, we've stored this in here so that it got too much, so the gallbladder goes and squirts all that bile salt into this area right here, and that helps to emulsify the fat so you don't lose anything. So if anybody wants to take an extra piece that isn't going to kill you and somebody wants to take your gallbladder, do not let them do it. And if you do not have a gallbladder, come and tell me not right now, at the break. Because I need to know in terms of helping you get better. Because you need a gallbladder, okay? If you don't have one, you run into a lot of troubles, including Alzheimer's, dementia, lots of fun things. Okay? All right, so what have we done? We've taken all that stuff. We've taken the starches and carbohydrates, made them into glucose, the protein into amino acids, and we've taken the final piece, the fats, into fatty acids. Now they move along. It takes a trip down the duodenal sweep. Okay? You ready? They're going to take a trip down the sweep. Ready? Here we go. Okay, ready? There they are. And they're going down the sweep. What happens? Whee! Come on, you guys. Wake up. Lord, these are funny jokes. These are dad jokes, man. So here we are. On this side, we got the gut side. On this side, we got the bloodstream. Okay? Now, these little guys got to go through these little tiny holes right here to get through. All right? But we made them small enough so they go through. It's making sense. Trace minerals, everything. So they jump into their submarine. Okay? And in the submarine, now what do? They get into the outside. Now, this is the mucus and the probiotic healthy bacteria. These are called fimbria. These are these are the cells of the gut. And what happens? They penetrate into the bloodstream. Okay? Once in the bloodstream, now we can start using them. All right? So tiny passages in healthy bacteria aid in that process. All right? So now we're in there. Now we're at the tailpipe, the tail end. How does the tailpipe work? Okay? Now, the small intestine has three parts: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum, which is the tail end, and they're different parts. The duodenum is mainly for digestion, which you guys just learned. Okay, the jejunum is for absorption. Okay, tail end of digestion. Absorption is in the ileum. Okay, so all this digestion we just watched, the submarine going in, happened in the ileum. Now, at the tail end, right here, that's the tail end right there. That's called the cecum. And up here on this tail end was the end of the ileum. Okay, now there's a valve at the end of this. All right, it's called the ileocecal valve. And there it is right there. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so that's the ileocecal valve. Now, what does it look like, really? Okay, this is the real picture right here. Okay, it's a one-way valve. Okay, so what happens is that's all the undigested food material, important stuff. All the waste products, we call it, is important for your body. It's critical. If you don't have enough fiber and tail end pieces, you're going to run into some problems with digestion. Okay, so there's a ton of bacteria and waste in the colon. We don't want that upstream. We want it in the colon because the healthy bacteria in the gut will help a certain process that's coming up. Okay, so those bacteria and raw materials make something kind of important to your body, and it's called the happy hormone serotonin. Who wants to have more happiness in their life? Raise your hand. Okay, so we've got to make sure we're putting good stuff into the bowel and colon. Okay, it's important. All right, so what happens, let's back up one more step. So this stuff pushes through, the valve opens, then the valve closes. Because we don't want to have that stuff coming upstream. And that's important for later as we start talking about malfunction of the gut. All right, so that's the tail end of the pipe, right? What comes out the tail end? A baby Ruth bar. Isn't what it looks like? That's the picture of baby Ruth bar, that's what it's supposed to look like. Okay? Is anybody in this room a rabbit? Raise your hand if you're a rabbit. Oh, we'll get one rabbit. Okay, you should have pellets. Okay? So if you're pooping out pellets and you're a human being, that's not good. Okay, what if you're pooping out liquid? Does that look like a baby Ruth bar? No. What about little loose stools and what about undigested food material in your stool? Is that a good idea? You follow the problems here? So look for those things. And nobody wants to talk about poop. I love talking about poop. Guys like talking about, we like farting too. It's kind of a guy thing. I don't know why that is. Now, that's some pretty cool, help me out. Good. Yeah, and you have to say that one, but that's whatever you want to use, whichever one. That's some pretty cool stuff, but it doesn't have an F on the end. Okay? So what's the microbiome? Okay, what is the microbiome? That's all the bugs, anything that's in your gut. Everything. All the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of those things. So that's the microbiome if you look at it under a microscope. It's very diverse. And we want it to be diverse. We do not want there's trillions of bacteria, parasites, fungus, all kinds of good things. Some good and some bad, as we're taught, but it's not true. Okay, absolutely not true. The key is balance. Okay, if it gets out of balance, it's called dysbiosis. Okay, now let's think about something for a second. You take something to stop the influenza. Okay, Haemophilus influenza, the flu. Okay. So you do something to stop the flu. You kill the Haemophilus influenza. There's a guy over here who's responsible for balancing out that guy. So if this guy gets knocked out, what's going to happen to this guy? He's going to overgrow. Anybody heard the E. coli crisis of back 5, 10, 15 years ago? When, oh my God, everybody's dying from E. coli. You guys realize the number one bacteria in our body is E. coli? Why is everybody dying from it? Because we're creating imbalances with all the things we do, be antibiotics and all the other chemicals we put into our body to try to make ourselves feel better, and you're creating a nightmare imbalance in your gut, which is leading to all kinds of problems. Now, good bacteria is essential. And here's an interesting thought. Okay, there's more microbiome inside of us. There's more bacteria and microscopic guys than there are cells inside of our body. So if you're creating imbalances, and these bugs are making things like serotonin or whatever they happen to need, does it make you kind of wonder who's running the show? Is it your gut microbiome or is it your brain? I don't think so. Because think about it. If you don't have the proper materials in the microbiome to make serotonin, what's that going to make you feel like? Depressed, sad, and unhappy. And you go to the doctor and go, I'm sad, depressed, and unhappy. Oh my God, you need an antidepressant. Really? Maybe you just need to fix your gut, right? And that's why it's called Beyond the Bellyache. There's more to it than that. We'll continue, okay? The gut-brain connection. This is very important, okay? Look, I know this sounds crazy, baby, but I feel like we have a real connection here. That's the gut, okay? Then he calls talking to the brain. They always say, trust your gut feelings. Do you realize there's equal number of neurons in your gut as there is in your brain? So when you get a gut feeling, now what do we, in a Western culture, what do we believe the most important thing is? The brain or the gut? Do you trust more your thoughts and your thinking brain and logic, or do you trust your gut feelings? She says depends, okay? That's not, how many times have you done this? Okay, you went to a doctor, he said, do this procedure because I think it's the most important thing you do, and your gut tells you, nope, this is not a good idea. And you go, oh, my brain says I should do it, so let's go ahead and do it. And then you, after it's all done, you fell apart the procedure. I have a new patient lost her leg because of it. And so it's like, I knew I shouldn't have, my gut told me not to do it. Why aren't you listening to it? You need to listen to the other brains inside your body. Trust those feelings. They're legit. Okay, so if your gut tells you no, thank you, you should probably honor that. Now, there's times you got to use logic, you got to think it through. Sometimes it does make sense, but you can't let fear run your life, right? So let's make sure that happens. So, what do we always say, right? The body's always talking to the brain through a clean and enhanced nervous system. That's the chiropractic piece, isn't it? We got to have a clean nervous system in order for that gut to call the brain. If it doesn't, it's not going to activate. Then the brain responds by sending out signals to activate resources for healing. So the microbiotic gut influences neurotransmitters, stress, anxiety, mood, and behavior, which is going to influence your life, right? Then the brain will respond and influences motility, secretion, nutrient delivery, and microbial balance. You see the loop? And we've got to get both sides. The input system and the output system, okay? We always talk, because it's easy to talk about the brain making the heart pump, the brain making the food digest, but there's the upstream piece as well. And that's very important overall for good health, all right? So the connection between the two brains is, anybody? The gut and the brain, what's the connection? Oh my Lord, you guys, wake up, it's the spine! You're in the chiropractic office. You should have gotten that one as kind of a leading question, yes? So, you got to get the clean connection and you need to get adjusted. So the bones of the spine, what are they for? They're for protection of that connection in that beautiful nervous system. So the bones become the nemesis to your nerves, and without a clean nerve, the body cannot be healthy. So the whole idea, what interferes with this? The bones get out of alignment. What's the fancy word for that? Remember, it's called subluxation. You got it. So you damage the nerve, whether it's affecting the downhill or the uphill, it's going to make the body not be healthy. And what creates subluxation? Physical trauma to your body, accidents, injuries, falls, sitting at desks, text messaging, spending too much time on our fannies. Okay, that's A. B would be emotional stress and chemical exposure. Exposing our body to various medications and chemicals can damage our nervous system and create this misalignment in your spine, which damages the nervous system, and the communication simply breaks down. All right? So in order to have a healthy gut, you need two things, right? You need simply communication, which is what? Coming into the office and getting what? Thank you. Adjustments. You guys got that. And then the second thing is resources, which is food and the gut bone that we're going to talk about today. Those are the resources, because the body has to call, the gut calls the brain activates the needed resources, whether that's healthy bacteria, whether that's gut healing nutrients and supplements to build that healthy gut back the way it was intended. And then it basically just gets healthy. All right? So, did you know that 70% of your immune system lives in your gut? 70%. So if 70% of your immune system is inside your gut and your gut is fouled up, what do you think is going to happen to your ability to fight off infection? It's going to be tanked. What are we coming into? The flu season, right? And so we need to get a strong, healthy immune system to make sure that happens. Probiotics in your gut work to fight off illness and foreign invaders. It turns a diverse, healthy gut, it greatly impacts how susceptible the host is. So if your gut is fouled up, it's going to increase your susceptibility to infection, right? So do we need more drugs or do you need more health? Which one's going to get us through the flu and cold season, right? It's going to be that. This is what I said at the very beginning. All diseases begin in the gut. I think Hippocrates is right. Okay? Was he correct? I don't know. He said this. All these things are a consequence of gut issues. Autoimmune disease, brain disorders, cognition decline, that could include Alzheimer's and dementia, neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, fatigue and joint pain, mood disorders, depression and anxiety, learning disabilities, infertility, pregnancy complications, allergy, asthma, and food sensitivities. I think the gut's kind of important. Is it more than just a tube? Input and output. There's a little more than that in between. Yeah? All right. So, what do you do when you get a stomach ache? What's your remedy? What's your treatment? Right? So, what are you going to reach for? Lots of different things. Antibiotics, Pepto-Bismol, right? Something to make your tummy feel better. So, antibiotics, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right? Side effects of antibiotics. All right? Now, remember, the antibiotics kill what? What do they kill? Negative, not everything. What do they kill? Say it? Only bacteria. But because antibiotics are so smart, they're way smarter than our brain, what do they kill? Only the bad guys, not the good guys. What do they kill then? Everything. Okay? Not everything, every bacteria. Right? Now, if you kill every bacteria, that means good and bad, using that metaphor, but we talked about balance, remember? But if you kill everything, what's going to be the most common thing to grow back? The good stuff or the bad stuff? The bad stuff's more strong, so it's going to take over your gut and cause problems. Some side effects include digestive issues, bloating, fungal infection, yeast infections. Ladies, anybody know about yeast infections? Okay, that's the consequence, right? Nausea. They're all due to the gut-destroying effects of antibiotic. Okay? What is an antacid? What is the word? What does it say? Antacid, right? We're going to get rid of the acid. So, why would we want to get rid of acid if the purpose of the acid is to break down your food and digest it? So you're going to take an antacid to create more balance? You're going to neutralize the acid. But why is it making acid? Why is the body making acid? For digestion. So why would you want to neutralize it? You got too much. Because the body always makes mistakes. The body never makes mistakes. Okay? Remember that. It never makes mistakes. Whatever you're manifesting right now is the body doing the right thing at the right time right now. Because your body demands it. It's giving you a symptom for what purpose? It's giving you a reflex to tell you something is wrong. So let's neutralize the symptom and let the problem get worse and worse and worse. And nothing is more prevalent than in the gut. All right, I watched a PBS seminar on television, a little show, and it was a bunch of medical doctors, and they had a bunch of really interesting questions for them, and they were very honest. But the one I remember for this program was when he said, what medication would you, by law, are you required to give a patient when they present with a certain symptom that you would never, ever, ever prescribe for your own family? Guess what it was? Antacids. Now think about this for a second. What's the number one line of defense for your body against these ugly, nasty guys that are out in the world? It's not your immune system. What is it? It's the stomach acid. You know, you take your nice organic apple, you wash the crap out of it. Oh, it's so clean now. There's still a billion zillion bacteria on there. It didn't really work. Then you eat it. It drops into the stomach acid. What do you think it's doing to all those parasites, worms, and bacteria, all the stuff that was all over the apple? Kills them. But what if you neutralize the acid? You're allowing those parasites and bugs and things to get into your gut. But even more important is you're not digesting your food, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay? So, want to hear something crazy? I went the wrong way. Okay? So, Antacids can create a dementia and B vitamin deficiencies. And B vitamins aren't important. They're only important in every single thing, including energy machine. Right? So critical. So what is the number one most common side effect, reason we get gastroesophageal reflux? Is it too much acid or not enough acid? Anybody? Too much is what I heard for the majority of people. The answer is actually not enough. Now listen to this. When I test for this, and it's a very expensive test, so I don't test anymore because 90% of the people experience this, you take food and put it into your stomach. It drops down into the stomach, and the brain-gut connection is disconnected because you're misaligned. Specifically the top of your skull and at the celiac plexus in the mid-back. The stomach can't call the brain can't activate the acid. So what do you got sitting in your stomach? Food. If you took food out and set it on the counter and left it at room temperature or body temperature, what's going to happen to your food? It's going to rot. Anybody drink milk they set out too long what does it taste like? What's the yuck taste like? Sour, which is acidic, which by the way is acetic acid. So when the food rots in your stomach, you're manufacturing something called acetic acid. You're not making it. Your stomach acid, it's just a consequence of the food rotting in your belly. So what happens now? Does the esophageal sphincter close? No, because there's no acid to close. There's no receptor sites that fill it fully, so it stays open. Okay, what about the tail end? Does that close? No. So we end up with an ulcer. On one end, we get gastroesophageal reflux disease because there is some acid being secreted, but not enough to close the sphincter, so the acid jumps up into your esophagus. They run an endoscope, look at the burning, and go, oh my gosh, you're making too much stomach acid. False. 90% of the time. And on the tail end, you're not closing it, you end up with various types of ulcers and things. Okay? Yeah? So not enough stomach acid is more common than too much stomach acid. Does it happen? Yeah. Again, back to our connection again. If the stomach calls the brain and says, I need some stomach acid, the brain activates the secretion of stomach acid, and you misalign the spine, the brain can't turn it off. And you get too much stomach acid. Following me so far? So either way, it's chiropractic or it's other types of things we got to fix. All right? So vitamin B deficiency and dementia. Who wants dementia? Raise your hand. Anybody wants to have decreased brain function? Okay? All right. So the whole idea of the allopathic, the medical approach to treating disease is a bomb for the gut. They're going to bomb the gut and kill everything. Okay? And what's the consequence? What most commonly grows back when you drop a bomb? Bad things. Right? And so your gut gets all out of balance and all the troubles start to occur. So drop a bomb and remove the interference. Okay, question. This is a very, 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 very important question. Do you think you have the ability to heal, yes or no? Are you confident in that? Then why is the number one company in the world a drug company? If you believe you can heal. If you asked everybody that question in the world, most people would give you the answer yes. And yet, we're taking lifetime drugs. We're taking prescription medication. We go to the grocery store and we're to those shelves. I mean, are we getting unhealthy because we have a deficiency of drugs in this culture? You ever walked into the grocery store and said, oh, my Advil is gone. What am I going to do? Right? We have plenty of drugs. Why aren't we healthier as a culture? How come the U.S. has the worst health than any other country in the world, including some of the third world countries? We're down at the tail end, and we spend more money and throw more treatment and money at conditions than anything else. And yet we're getting sick and diseased. So you think it's possible to heal, yes or no? Yes. Well, I think I agree with you, but the key is back to this again. You need two things to heal. What did I say? Communication, which comes from the adjustment. So if you want to be healthy, you have to make your adjustments. When you make your adjustments, when do you be honest, be 100% honest. When's the most likely time you're going to walk through my door? When you hurt. So what are we doing then? Are we restoring health or are we treating your symptom? Because I can guarantee you go across the street and find the crack shacks and you go crack, crack, crack. You say, dang, I feel so much better. Thanks for that back treatment. And you go back the next time you hurt. There's no difference. The only difference is there's less side effects to getting your back cracked than there is to getting your taking a drug. We want spinal correction. So we need communication. So make your adjustments, and they're per the schedule. You don't show up just because you feel bad and miss because you feel good. In fact, to be 100% honest, I would prefer the opposite. And what do you guys do? Okay? This was the most frustrating seminar I've ever put on in my life. I've never had so many people give me so many excuses for not being here. Yeah, I apologize to all of you. My apologies to you. Because you're all here. You made the commitment for being healthy. But I got my brother-in-law's cousin and sister's bar mitzvah, and I got to make it to my niece's graduation, and I got to go to this, and I got to fly to Hawaii vacation. All these things. Oh gosh, my life is so important. But I guarantee you, if you got the diagnosis of cancer, you'd find a way to make it. Wouldn't you? Yeah. When it gets serious enough, that's when you show up. But then it's hard to fix. When's the best time to fix something? In the early stages or once you're into a nightmare? Early stages, right? And so we have to make sure we're making that communication. But it's two pieces, right? It's making the corrective adjustment so your spine is perfectly aligned on before and after x-rays. And resources, right? And here I put it, if I changed it from gut to supplementation, right? Because this is overall healing we talked about. I asked you if you think you could heal. And you all said yes. But can you heal with poor communication? Yes or no? Can you heal with inadequate resources, whether that be vitamins, the supplements, vitamins, minerals, nutrients? You can't. You've got to get both pieces. And when you get both pieces engaging the way it's intended, you get to have your life back. Not just feel better temporarily as you walk through my door for my next treatment for my headache. I come in with my migraines right here. I get that. You just cracked me, Dr. Ray. It'll be great. And the headache goes away. And then it goes away. And then it goes away. Then it doesn't go away. Then it doesn't go away. Then it doesn't go away. What do you say? All the treatment quit working. Chiropractic didn't work for me. I know it didn't work for you because you didn't apply correction. You applied treatment. And the problem gets worse and worse and worse. Then you go to the medical community. They do more aggressive intervention till finally they do one thing. They look at you and go, well, there's nothing else could be done until we find a new treatment. And then they do, by magic. Comes from a drug company. And then they put the commercials on TV. We watch them, and we watch them, and we watch them, and they sprinkle them in until finally you go, maybe I have that. I should go to my doctor. Ask your doctor. And you tell them, I think I have this. Oh my gosh. And the drug companies precipitate the selling. Oh, I think you do too, because if I sell enough of this, something amazing might happen in my life. Okay? So why do you come here? Why do you come here? Is it to make your back feel better, or is it to get your body back to health? The goal is health. It's not feeling better. It's not about feeling better. It's about restoring health. And then guess what's going to happen in the long game? You're going to feel better. We don't want you just to feel better and then walk through the door and continually do the treatment train. We want you off that train and into the health bus. Okay, symptoms of a poor gut. Common digestive disorders. Let's get into that since we'll talk a little bit. What's the number one symptom? There's a quiz for everybody. Did you guys get the quiz? Turn it in. Just jacking. Okay. What is the number one symptom of a gut issue? Now, if you know the answer legitimately because you've heard this before, don't answer. But if you've never done this program before, what's the number one symptom of a gut? Throw me out something. Go. Diarrhea, no. Indigestion, no. But who said bloating? Where? Good guess. Not even close. What is it? Anybody? Oh, you don't know? Here's the number one symptom of a gut problem. No symptoms at all is the number one symptom. So you feel nothing in the gut. My gut feels fine, Dr. Ray. Why would I go to a gut program? You see the problem? That's why you come to all the events, because you'll learn these things. How about depression, anxiety, ADHD? That's a gut problem. Okay? How about acne, rosacea, and psoriasis? That's a gut problem. How about Hashimoto's thyroiditis? Hashimoto's. Okay? Hypothyroidism, Graves' disease. We'll skip that one. Rheumatoid arthritis, RA, rheumatoid arthritis. All the rheumatoid family ties to gut. I get so frustrated when I watch immunosuppressive drug commercials on television for RA and the other types of autoimmune diseases. It makes me nuts. Let's destroy your immune system to make you feel better. And then when you get cancer, everybody throws up their arms and goes, I'm so surprised. Well, your immune system kills cancer. It makes me nuts. Fibromyalgia, headaches, frequent colds, and food sensitivities. And now we can get into some gut stuff, constipation, diarrhea, IBS, and maybe even colon cancer. Okay? But the number one symptom is nothing in your gut, but your body feels like garbage. And you go for your fibromyalgia drugs. Don't forget your autoimmune suppressive drugs. Don't forget your cold stuff, whatever you take for that. Your antidepressant drugs, your ADHD for our poor children that are turning into adults ADHD, taking those drugs. It's a nightmare, isn't it? But we got to start thinking a different way. So, leaky gut plus inflammation equals disease, all right? So, leaky gut is the number one reason people end up with all that stuff on the prior slide. It's leaky gut. Okay, now what the heck is leaky gut? Okay, now we hear about Crohn's disease, irritable bowel, celiac disease. These are all problems too. Chronic fatigue, type 1 diabetes, lupus, fibromyalgia, arthritis, allergies, asthma, acne, obesity, mental illness. All of this ties to leaky gut. So almost every single health problem, Hippocrates, begins from leaky gut. What does that mean, leaky gut? Okay? What is it? Here we go. We get exposed to stress, okay? Everybody going to do me a favor, okay? Put your hand up and keep it up if you have any of the following, okay? Ready? Okay, lift your hand in the air high and tall if you have stress. Okay, hold it up if you ingest or exposed to toxins, raise your hand. Keep it up, okay? Who has undigested food material or gut issues related to that? That would include any type of gluten intolerance, gut intolerance. How many people take drugs in this room? Raise your hand. Have pathogens and any type of organ dysfunction? Raise your hand. Look around the room. Almost every single hand is up. Why? You can put your hands down now. Thank you. Okay? I said people being very compliant. Okay. Simon says, put your hand down. Okay. All right. So what happens? All of these things create gut inflammation. Okay? Now there's our tight little junctions over here, and this is widening, and this is complete tearing of that material. So all these, see these little guys right here, these little nasties get into the body. All right? But what else is in here? Remember, our gut wasn't making enough hydrochloric acid, so we didn't break down the proteins. Your pancreas wasn't connected to the spine properly, so you don't make amylases. Your liver's jacked up because you don't have the connection, or resources too for that matter. And all this undigested food material, all the bugs, parasites, and worms that should have been killed in the immune system and also in the stomach acid are now in your gut, in the tail end, at the tailpipe end. Okay? And so what happens, you start passing food through the gut. What if that food happens to be gluten? Oh, I have gluten intolerance. I can't do gluten. It makes me sick. Why do you think gluten intolerance is epidemic right now? Duh, leaky gut, right? But that could be any, oh, I can't eat peppers. Peppers, oh God, they blow me up like nobody's business. I hear that all the time. Oh my God, I cannot do processed meats. They make me sick. I hear all this stuff all the time, okay? It's the undigested food material passing into the gut where the immune system starts to attack it. Picture a big chunk of apple floating into the gut, the bloodstream. What do you think your immune system's going to say to that? I don't know what that is, but it's a big chunk of apple. I don't know what that is. I'm going to kill it. And now you can't eat apples. All right? But then we end up with immune system malfunction because these poor guys that are trying to fight the war for you are fighting everything that's passing into the GI system. And then the body starts to get confused and it starts attacking you. If it attacks your joints, what do you get? Joint pain, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, some of the rheumatoid family, maybe just joint pain. Okay, what else do you get? Oh, I get the sciatica right down here, Dr. A. I think I got sciatica. Okay, I got the carpal tunnel. They cut my wrist open, but now it's worse than ever because it was a gut issue. Oh, I got the diabetes. I don't need any sugar, and my sugars are out of control. I take drugs. I have to. My doctor said I have to forever. Okay, you see the connection here? What if it attacks your brain? Oh, I think I have the dementia. The doctor says I have dementia. I got to take dementia drugs. Insanity, guys. That's what this is. So what's the solution? Okay, we got to fix the gut. Yes? 4 hours of gut repair. Okay? Now, I want you to look at this sheet right here because we're getting into it. All right? So, different things down here. We have Enzymix Pro, digestive enzymes, GI Revive, GI Synergy, Enterovite, Strengthia. All those buggers on there are things that you're going to want to check off as you go through. Okay? As you find out, hey, that's me, hey, that's me, hey, that's me. Then I have a bundle for people that don't have any gut problems as well. Just they do that. And then the GI effects, you guys are going to love GI effects. Okay? So first, number one thing we got to get is digestion and absorption. Now, we got to get the body connected, right? Number one, that's the adjustment piece. So make your adjustments and get an appointment if you're a guest to get your spine corrected. Okay? So we got to digest and absorb. But in the short term, we've got to get the food breaking down so we can get it into the body so we can use it as the resource to rebuild your gut. So we have to temporarily use some things till your body can kick back on again. So Enzymix Pro or digestive enzymes. You don't need both. Okay? You just need one of those. Okay? Which one do you pick? Doesn't matter. Start with one, and guess what happens? You'll say, oh my gosh, that works so well for me. I love it. Then you're going to try the other. That one didn't work. You try the other one, it'll work. I have no idea why. If you look at the ingredients list, it's identical. But half the people like this one, and then half the people like that one. I have no idea why. Okay? I can't answer that. Okay? Immunology and inflammation. How do we fix that? Okay? We got to patch the hole. Right? We got leaky gut, so we're going to put a patchwork in there to repair the damaged area where the gut lining is. I'll show you a picture. Okay, just soon. Microbiome. We got to get the healthy probiotic into your gut, right? That's going to be first it's the Strengthia, that's the probiotic, and then you have something called a prebiotic. What's a prebiotic? Anybody? What'd you say? Protection. It's the food that feeds the probiotic. Okay, so if you put a bacteria in the gut, that'd be the Strengthia up there, okay? And then you feed them, they multiply faster, okay? Mainly beta-hydroxybutyrate is the name of the prebiotic, okay? But that's what the main thing that's in here, okay? But that feeds that guy. So this one, the other one said or, notice this one says and. So again, you should be checking your sheet off right now. Pathogens and parasites, we got to kill all the worms, okay? We got to give you the max GI, that's going to provide the stuff to nuke all the bugs in your gut that are bad guys. Okay? There's the 4-hour bundle right there. GI Restore. That's going to fix the patch up the gut. That's going to kill the nasty guys in your gut. That's going to rebuild the guys. That's going to feed the guys. And that's going to break down the food. Got it? And then your gut gets steady healthy. Those are resources we're talking about now. Now the correction piece, that's the chiropractic bundle. Okay? Now, if you're on a budget, those are the 3 guys. Okay, I understand people aren't made of money. I wish you were. It'd make my life so much simpler. I could just give you everything and you all get amazing results. But you got to think about budget. But GI Restore would be number 1. Number 2 would be Max G. Number 3 would be the Strengthia. Okay, in that order. Okay. All right. So let's talk about specific conditions. Now we talked about reflux already, right? What's the problem? Too much or not enough stomach acid? Not enough. Okay. So what do we got to do? It's not what you think. Adjustments, why? We talked about that already. Supplementation, gastric acid. It's hydrochloric acid. So what are you going to do? When are you going to take this stuff? When do you take your digestive enzymes? With meals. Right? So you get reflux, you do gastric acid with the meal, guess what's going to happen? I feel so much better. Start off with 1 tablet, and if you don't feel any difference, go to 2. And if you don't feel any difference, go to 3 per meal. All right? Maximum of 3. If you get to a number and you start feeling acidic, that's too much for you. Back off to the prior dosing. So I do 1 tablet and I get acidic every other meal. Follow? Now if I do it in 2, I back off to 1. If I get up to 3, back off to 2, and 3 is maximum no matter what. Okay? Because it's just too much acid for your body. All right. Crohn's disease. This is upper intestinal problems. That's going to be the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. That's in the small intestine. All right. So what do we got to do to fix that? Supplementation, GI Revive. Read what it says. GI permeability support. This is the patchwork on the front end of the bowel. Okay? It's an autoimmune disease called Crohn's. And again, why do you think it works? Because the immune system's attacking the gut. And you take it and you feel better, but the immunosuppressive drugs to set you up for so many other pathologies. That's why at the end of the commercial, you got to zone out, because they said so many times, all the adverse effects. Okay? Ulcerative colitis is the lower intestine. That's the colon. Okay? Now, what happens with ulcerative colitis, when they do a endoscope, they put barium enema up your butt, then they take a picture, and you can actually see those little fimbria things, those little fingers. Okay, they're all gone. So you have fingers, nothing. Fingers, nothing. And what ends up happening, the patient just started with today. They cut out a section of her colon because she had UC, ulcerative colitis. All they had to do was fix the gut by restoring the resources and getting the connection. And she didn't know. Why didn't she know? Because you didn't tell them. You got to tell people what we do here. And don't tell them he's a treatment. He treated my migraines. It's doing so much better. It helped my hot flashes. I feel so much better. I don't care. It's about restoration, right? I mean, I'm glad you guys are feeling better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a complete jerk, okay? I want you to feel better, but I don't want that to be the reason why you come here. I want you to understand why you're walking through my door, okay? Supplementation for that is GI Restore. We're going to restore those little skip lesions, they call them, on the in the board test you take, okay? SIBO. Now this is an interesting one. This is the bugs busting past the ileocecal valve. Remember that valve we talked about between the tail end of the first pipe and the second pipe, that little one-way valve, ileum and cecum ileocecal valve? Here's what happens. You ready? You get reflux. You take an antacid, or you take the Prilosec, or the purple pill, or the Meprazole, or whatever you take. This thing goes into your stomach. You feel better, but you don't digest your food. Okay? Then all the parasites and all the things that were on the food that you ate now enter into the small intestine. Okay? That doesn't break down. You have undigested food material in the small intestine that goes down to the absorption area, but it doesn't get absorbed. And it damages that area and stuff penetrates in. But it gets better. Because what should be happening? Remember our story at the front when I went through the pipe? Right? What happens? We take the food, we break it down into small little particles. The good stuff that we need for body gets absorbed and then passes the ileocecal valve, and the residual gets used to make serotonin, the immune system, and then, so it goes through, closes, makes those wonderful hormones, and we get coming out the back end. What's it called? The baby what? Baby Ruth bar. Right? But what happens? You've now passed, now here's the ileocecal valve. Here comes the food, all the undigested stuff that wasn't supposed to be here. It pushes this open. All the bugs, worms, parasites, undigested food material end up in the colon, and the valve closes. That ain't supposed to be here. What's in this gut? A crap ton of bacteria and all these things. And then you look at this food and go, I got a really good idea. We should eat all this stuff. And you'll see on your x-ray big foofy bubbles in your gut. You get indigestion, bloating. It's crazy, okay? But then what happens? This gets so big, it pushes past the ileocecal valve and starts going the wrong direction. So now all this garbage starts going up into your small intestine. Not supposed to be there. Your gut's feeling goes farther and farther upstream until we finally end up with some really bad gut problems, okay? Now to fix this sucker, okay, you're going to need two things. GI Revive to fix the gut permeability, and you're going to need Symbiotica. It's a probiotic. Has anybody in this room ever taken a probiotic and it made them sick? Okay, I got two hands only. That's pretty surprising. Usually it's half the room. Okay, this is SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So all these bugs are up inside your small intestine. So if you have bugs in your upper intestine and you take some more bacteria, what's that going to make your body do? I don't need more bacteria. I have too much. It's going to make you sick. But SIBO is a specific design of probiotic that doesn't make you sick if you have SIBO. Okay? All right. So small signs of SIBO: upset stomach, fatigue, skin problems. You know those rashes when you guys come in. I usually say liver, but it also could be SIBO. Okay, and skin is just a picture into the soul of your body when things aren't working right. Food sensitivity, digestive issues, sleep problems, and bloating, and I would add to that probiotic reactions. Okay. All right, and worst of all, I should say, is this. Okay, H. pylori, Heliobacter. Okay, this is a guy. So picture all these bugs and parasites working their way upstream, and they get into your stomach. This guy loves stomach acid. Okay, he lives in there. Okay, and he can't be killed unless you use something like HPLR, H. pylori. You heard H. pylori before? Okay, that's what kills that. It's HPLR. All right, so that you got to nuke that. Right. So GFX takes the guesswork out. It's pretty much what it is, and it's going to give us the answers specifically for you. All right. So what you do if you want to do the GI effects, you get the testing. We'll get you the box, and it's fun. You get a poop in a box and send it to a lab. Then they do all their lab work, and we get the results back. Okay. But in the meantime, though, you want to do the basic the bundle we gave you to get started. And then the GI effects will give us some more specific answers. Okay, let's transition. Okay, we're going into the next cycle, all right? We're going to talk about proper nutrition for gut health, all right? So let's talk about the top 5 gut healing foods fake foods that destroy your gut, okay? Now, gluten. Now, we talked about gluten at the time, right? As gluten passes, we get gluten intolerance. Now, is gluten a problem in today's culture? And the answer is an emphatic yes. And the reason for that is because that we have what we've done with food. Now, ancient grains had very little gluten, very little. But what's happened is we've used the genetically modified manipulation of our food supply under 2 promises. Number 1, we'll use less water, and they'll be less resistant to breakdown, attack from bugs and things. So we're going to use less water and less pesticides and herbicides because there'll be a stronger variant. Anybody ever seen a purebred dog? Dumb as a box of rocks, and usually always at the vet. Why? Because they're purebred. That's what they did. So we're using more water and we're using more pesticides than ever in the history of our world because of the modification, the GMO modifications of our animals and of our food supply, not the least of which is wheat. Okay? So that's why gluten is such a problem. Now, damaged fats. Now, are fats good for us or bad? Well, that's a better question. Do fats make us fat?
No.
The answer is no. Damaged fats make us fat. Okay? Now, what are damaged fats? Okay? Now, how much fat is in a vegetable?
None.
There's some. That's how they make corn oil and coconut oil, okay? Or corn oil and various oils. So there is some, but how much, squeeze a thing of broccoli. How much grease you going to get out of a piece of broccoli? So the problem is it becomes unstable. The broccoli oil becomes unstable, and so they have to do something called hydrogenation. And what that does, guys, it simply converts the configuration of the molecule from something called cis configuration, which is made for animal consumption, into something called a trans configuration, a trans fat, which was never made for human consumption. And so you get trans fats. They get sticky and gooey and create inflammation. Okay? And if that sticky gooey's on your gut, guess what we get? Gut issues. We just went through the whole thing. Artificial sweeteners and sugars. The blue stuff, okay? The pink stuff and the yellow stuff, okay? When I started in practice, like years ago, this was back when I was in Aurora, actually. And what happened is a lady came in, a patient, and they said, they're coming out with something called NutraSweet, the blue stuff. And he said, whatever you do, don't eat it. My uncle is on the research project for it, and it's not allowed. You shouldn't know this, but don't ever eat it. Okay? Now, the problem is that NutraSweet, or the equal, becomes formaldehyde inside of our bodies. What is formaldehyde used for on corpses? Embalm them to keep them from decomposing. So guess what we're doing to our bodies? We're going to look great in a casket, but it's going to kill you, okay? And then the other one, sucralose, that's the yellow stuff, okay? That stuff is a chlorinated sugar, okay? That's why it's sweet. Now, again, sugar, if you put it in water and stir it up, what does it do? Dissolve. Just like you put sugar in your mouth, it drops into amylases, becomes glucose, right? The reason it's able to break down and decompose is because it's an ionized bond. It's not a covalent bond. Covalents are strong. So if you ate a penny, what would you find in the kid's poop? A penny would not digest. That's a covalent bond, heavy, strong bond. So if you eat enough of this stuff, it kills you. Well, it's okay. It's safe. It was originally marketed as a pesticide. It's still a pesticide because the insects eat it and the insects die. But they always, what's that? The yellow stuff, sucralose. Okay. Now, so the challenge you get with sucralose, the people that give you poo-poo about toxicity is, oh, but it's so small. Okay. You pee in a pool, right? They say it's okay because there's plenty of things to protect you, right? But if you keep peeing in the pool, you're going to overwhelm the pool. So if you keep taking more and more and more of these artificial sweeteners, you're going to ultimately poison yourself from it. And there are people that are susceptible, people that aren't as susceptible, and there's other factors, right? For healing, what do we need? Connection and resources. So if you have a toxic connection to your liver that's breaking down, that's going to make you more susceptible. Make sense? So watch out for artificial sweeteners. Alcohol is just a sugar. That's all it is. Okay? And sugars are inflammatory, so you got to steer clear. Conventional meats. What's the problem with meats? Are not bad. Organic meats are fabulous, and the fat in organic meats are stellar. So when you eat an organic steak, cut off the edge like my grandpa used to do and eat all that fat. Okay? It's great for you. The problem is with that is when conventional fats have fat, okay, you go to a restaurant and you say 100% grain fed. Well, congratulations. What's on grain? Pesticides and herbicides. What did we just talk about with gluten? It's GMO. Okay, you just gave yourself all the, and sugar is inflammatory, which is what a grain is. Okay, so guess what you just gave yourself? Oh, and then don't forget, they put hormones in them for what purpose? To make them bigger so they can sell them better at market. If it's milk, it's estrogens. If it's other, but they're messing with our food supply. So never eat the fat on a conventionally grown steak. So if you go to somebody's house and you're having a nice meal, don't be rude. Eat the steak, just don't eat the fat on it. Okay, but try to steer clear of that and stay organic, of course. Okay, gut healing foods. Now these are things the gut loves. Number one is bone broth. Okay, guts love bone broth. It supports healing. Why? I have no idea. I've looked and researched. All I ever see on the different research stuff is bone broth is great for the gut, but nobody tells me why. And I've read and read and read, and I can't find anything. So all I know is do bone broth. But what kind of bone broth? From what kind of a cow? Organic cow. And that's our bone broth. Whey protein over there is like that. It's the same thing. So if you have gut issues, we always recommend bone broth, right? When we've run all the various testing. Okay? Prebiotic and probiotic rich foods. Okay? What are we talking about here? Sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha. Okay? And the last thing is pickles. Now be careful though, because they have to be fermented. That's what the body likes. The gut likes fermented foods. So fermented pickles, typically kosher, but sometimes they use acid to make them sour. So you make pickles, but they're not fermented. So you got to be fermented pickles. Okay, fasting. Okay, why is fasting good for you? Okay, let's talk about that. What do we know about America? We don't have enough food, right? There's never a grocery store, and there's never anything on the shelves, and there's no foods, there's no restaurants. We're just starving to death, aren't we? No. So what are we always doing in this culture? Eating all the time. We're constantly in a state of feed. So if you have garbage, what's that? It's not supposed to be up there. Well, that's my car wreck, and I don't know why it ended up there. That's heartbreaking. Well, here's my story since it's up here. If you don't know about my story, back in 2021, I was T-boned in a car accident. Okay? It was a pretty scary situation. Broke 10 ribs, collapsed a lung. My heart was getting to the point where they wanted to do ablations. It was not a pretty picture. I was scared to death. Now, the challenge you get is at my age, everybody told me that at your age you should be dead, okay, because your body's not healthy. But because I was so healthy, I survived it. I was told I would need an ablation of my heart, which is burning the nerves to my heart. I was going to need a pacemaker forever, beta blockers for my heart. I had to have my lung reinflated. My ribs would never be okay. I had to need 2 shoulder replacements. Okay, that's what I was told. Now, I was scared at the time, so trust me, this was not oh, I'm Dr. Cocky up here. No, I was mortified I was going to die, okay? And I remember going into the orthopedist's office for my shoulders, and he said, 2 shoulder replacements, no adjustments ever again. And I walked out, and I was just devastated. And on the wall was a picture of a guy had his leg chopped off, and he had those little J-shaped things that you run with for amputees. And I looked at that and I stopped for a second and said, if he can do it, why can't I? Why do I need to succumb to what he has to say about me? Because they don't know me. And I remember being downstairs, working out, crying, tears running down my face. It was mortifying. It was horrible. Anyway, this is me today. My shoulders, okay? My body, me. I don't do any drugs. I don't do any of that junk they told me I needed to do. Shockwave as a consequence of what happened, that helped me. That's why we have shockwave, regenerative injections. That's why we have regenerative injections. So God gave me this gift of this horrible accident so I could bring it to you. Okay? I don't know why that showed up there. It wasn't supposed to. Anyway, thank you. Okay, so we're talking about fasting. Let's get off that. Okay, fasting, get rid of that. Okay, so here we are. We have a layer of bricks. This is your gut lining. Okay? And so what happens? You put down your mortar and you put a layer of bricks. Okay? Now, if this foundation is crappy and you keep adding more and more layers of bricks to that foundation, if you've got a cruddy footing, cruddy foundation, you're going to have a leaky roof. That make sense? So what fasting does is it strips down that layer of garbage and rebuilds something fresh and new. All right? Now, I encourage fasting to begin with. Now, I've gone as much as 7 days without fasting, and I'll explain that how it happens to your body. It's absolutely fabulous, okay? But what happens is it strips down that gut layer, and then it rebuilds a fresh one. So you start off with 3 days a week, okay? 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window, okay? And so start 3 days a week, kind of get used to it. So I went from 3 days to 4 days to 5 days, and I went 7 full days without eating. Now, what happens is the body will take all the poisoning, garbage, and trash that you have built up inside your gut and throws it into the furnace of fuel. Okay, it just burns all that stuff up. Always reminds me of a funny story. I was in Lake Minnetonka, and my buddy Ronnie and my kids were relatively young, and they were running around grabbing everything. So they had a big, I call it the bonfire. It was a fire. Okay, and Ronnie would come up and he's sitting in his chair and, can we burn this, Ronnie? Burn it! They put tires in there. They put anything you could find. He's burn it, burn it, burn it. And that's really what happens to your body when you're replenishing your gut lining, is it burns all the garbage out of your body and refreshes it and brings it back to then. Then what happens, your body becomes an amazing fat burner because you're not eating, so the body will burn fat as its primary fuel source, and your brain will become so clear after 7 days. Now, the way it happens, day 1, you can do it. It's not a problem. Day 2, you're like, okay, I'm kind of hungry. Day 3, you would eat trash out of the garbage can. You're so hungry. I mean, ooh, there's a piece of trash. Ooh, there's a French fry from McDonald's, so good. Okay, I mean, you would do anything. You're so hungry. By day 7, you don't even care if you eat again. It's crazy. And so on the day 7, I said, well, I got to eat. Okay, and I did. But you want to lose some quick weight and be healthy the healthy way. Fasting is a way to do it. But don't jump right in. Okay. Anyway, I talked about this already, okay? All right, so exercise and digestion. When you exercise, it actually modifies your microbiome. Isn't that interesting? So you can literally change your microbiome in about 48 hours. So if you've eaten garbage food your whole life, tons of crap in your gut, and if you do the things I ask within 48 hours, you'll see some amazing changes, okay? All right, so your action steps for today. Pick up your supplements as you leave, all right? Make sure you do that. If you haven't gotten them, get them, please. Protect your gut by following the advanced eating plan. Reserve your seat for dinner with the doc. Make and schedule your adjustments. And refer a friend or use the QR link below. I'll be on the next slide too. And if you're a guest here today, make sure you get a time to schedule time with me to look at your x-rays so we can develop a connection plan for you. All right? So connect with us. Refer a friend. That's that one. This is a Facebook like. That helps people find us. It's crazy. The social media stuff is insane, and that's our YouTube channel. Learn. That's the key. Number one essential we rely on in this office is me changing this guy, this, and by the way, there's just as many neurons in your heart as there is in your brain too. The gut, the heart, and the brain. This is about transforming your life. Okay? So make sure you do that. Guys, thanks so much for coming. I hope I finished early. I talked a lot today. I apologize. Hopefully you guys learned something. Make sure you apply it. Okay? All right. Thank you, guys.